Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we discuss the New Orleans Pelicans, Anthony Davis. We talk about National Signing Day, LSU Tulane classes. We'll take a look at what happened around the state. If we have time, we might talk about the New Orleans Saints. Got a full show tonight. Coming on our show tonight, two great guys, and of course, two guys that know sports in this town inside and out from one of the best websites out there when it comes to local sports, CrestCitySports.com. Rene, Nadeau, and Lenny Vangilder are our guests tonight. Gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Always like to start off letting folks know a little bit about what you guys are involved in. Rene, you take us there first.
CrestCitySports.com, doing football season. I'm a color analyst, college football. Work for CBS Radio for Saints games and some other events and things like that. And I think that's about it. But, you know, college football and Saints most of the season. You know, as we know, football never goes away, so yes, we always have things to talk about. Recruiting is always a big favorite of mine, and that's been a hot topic.
You do a great job with it as well. Lenny, welcome back.
It's good to be back.
Good to have you.
And no, when I'm not Rene's chauffeur on signing day, yeah. When I'm not taking him around everywhere on signing day with driving Miss Daisy, you know, kind of thing. Yeah.
So he was in the back of the car with a cigar and everything.
Ice cream cone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just had to you know keep the ice cream bucket filled up. That's all. But yeah, a lot of great stuff, as you mentioned, going on across the city sports. This is one of our favorite times of year, actually. Our colleague Ken Trahan is in Bossier City this weekend, state wrestling championships. We've got it gavel to gavel in terms of coverage at Crescent City Sports. Can't straighten those state championship events yet, but you know, maybe down the road we'll see something like that. But maybe down the road, going on there. Now we do have
it'll
streaming.
Come back to New Orleans down the road.
That would be great as well. And who knows what may happen with everything that went on at the LHSA convention a couple of weeks ago. We're going to see a whole new look to a lot of those championships as well. But we could spend an hour talking about that.
Sure.
But the other thing, we've got a live stream tonight, Thursday night, high school soccer tonight. Tune in 7 o'clock right after this show ends. St. Paul's and Mandeville, big Division I soccer playoff game, big rivalry game. Winner moves on to the quarterfinals.
Who's the favorites this weekend in the wrestling championships?
Brother
Martin Holy Cross?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, Brother Martin Holy Cross Jesuit out of the Catholic League they'll be 3 of the top 4 very likely. You know, coming out of there, you know, some of the lower divisions, there's always teams from this part that are, you know, making noise. Archbishop Hannon, De La Salle, always doing well. Archbishop Shaw, you know, some others. And look, the thing is, though, it's unfortunate it's in Bossier City, like you said, because I think it's the last number I saw was like 84 to 94 schools that compete in wrestling in Louisiana along the I-10 corridor, but yet it's in Bossier City. Unfortunately, we don't have the right facility to have it here to accommodate the crowds that are really coming out for this thing.
Yes.
And that's what
that's the issue now, because the Pontchartrain Center had it for a long time, right?
And it really outgrew
the Pontchartrain.
Yeah, and look, the LHSA has got a responsibility as well to try to spread these championships around the state.
Yes.
And there's not a lot in North Louisiana outside of cross country and Natchitoches. There's not a lot going on in Northwest Louisiana. So this gives Shreveport Bossier a chance to host something, and they've been a good host. It's just unfortunate that the propensity of the programs are located down here near us, and all those fans have to travel 5 hours to go watch.
But you say it outgrows the Pontchartrain Center. Are the crowds traveling to Bossier City to see these?
They're comparable crowds, but again, if you had a facility that maybe wasn't as big as Smoothie King Center,
right.
Somewhere in between that had the floor
UNO
space.
Lakefront Arena?
It could be, but they don't quite have the floor space to put 10 mats on the main floor.
Okay.
You need something that's the size of a hockey rink, basically, and UNO's floor space is a little bit smaller than that. There's a way you could do it there, much like Pontchartrain Center does, putting a couple of auxiliary mats in the back, and they've got an auxiliary gym at UNO that you could do that with. So it would be interesting to see how they would try to do it. It could be done, but
or even Baton Rouge. I mean, what
River Center's been discussed as well.
Yeah, no doubt, guys. Let's jump into it. Big story has been bubbling now for almost a week and a half. Again, Anthony Davis to anywhere but New Orleans. The Pelicans did make some moves today at the trading deadline. Anthony Davis was not traded as expected by those that have been watching this very, very closely. Wesley Johnson, who was brought in this year from the Los Angeles Clippers, been basically a bench warmer for the team, veteran guy. He is traded to the Wizards for Markieff Morris and a 2023 second-round pick. The Pelicans will get that 2023 second-round pick. They also give relief to the Wizards, who are no longer in luxury tax over the luxury tax threshold. Then they trade Niko Mirotic to the Milwaukee Bucks. They get multiple second-round picks from the Bucks. Actually, they received a Denver's 2019 second-round pick, Washington's 2020 and 2021 second-round picks, Milwaukee's 2020 second-round pick. They get Jason Smith, the former Hornet, who comes back to New Orleans on an expiring contract, Stanley Johnson, who's been traded a couple times over the last couple days. The young player comes to New Orleans. He has a $5.3 million qualifying offer, which means the Pelicans let him go for nothing if ultimately he doesn't pan out. We'll find out a lot about him after the All-Star break, based on if he can fit what the Pelicans are looking for in the future. Basically, this was about assets. This was about moving players that you could move at the trading deadline to be able to try to acquire assets. They were hoping to get a first-round pick for Niko Mirotic. It didn't happen. They ended up getting 5 second-round picks. And you say, wait, second-round picks in the NBA, not worth much. No, but if you're acquiring assets, you can use those second-round picks down the line to make a trade work, a sweetener on a trade, or maybe to move back into the first round if necessary. So that's the mindset there. I'm a little surprised that Julius Randle was not moved. There's a player option of a little bit over $9 million next year for him, but he can only make 120% of that salary. So again, you're not talking about a lot of money on the open market for a free agent like Randle, who's had a really good year this year. We've been told he likes New Orleans, he likes the coaching staff, he likes the training staff. Problem is, coaching staff and training staff might not be here next year. So again, you don't get something for him. They had to get something for both Mirotic and Randle on the way out, because honestly, they didn't do it with Eric Gordon and with Ryan Anderson, and that is a mortal sin in the NBA. Expiring contracts, when you don't have an opportunity to re-sign those guys, they're not in your future plans. You've got to get assets for them. They weren't able to do it for Julius Randle, nor Etuan Moore, who has 1 year left on his deal at a little bit over $8 million. So those guys will stay with the club. Anthony Davis keeps saying he's going to play after the All-Star break. Everybody I'm talking to, everybody that again knows anything about the NBA, realizes Anthony Davis will never play another second in a Pelicans uniform. With that said, guys, first of all, your thoughts on the deals that were made today in terms of getting assets. Then we'll get into the Anthony Davis saga.
Well, I agree that it's a move for the future. These second round picks, how many of these guys are they actually going to use in draft?
Right.
For a draft. It's pretty obvious now, and I mean, not that it wasn't before, but the Pelicans have made it pretty clear. We're moving on to the future. We're gonna kind of solidify things for the future. Mirotic is a guy you hate to lose. He was a great asset to this program.
And loved New Orleans, too.
Loved New Orleans. He can get hot, and he fit in very, very well with the Pelicans, what they did. But it's going to be a house cleaning kind of situation. They bringing in Stanley Johnson, Arizona guy, 6'7", 245, was first round pick in 2015, 8th overall. What can he do? I don't know. But the thing is that he may not be here very long. But you think of some of the guys that were buried, and we're talking about this off the air. Some of the guys were buried on the roster. I mean, Kenrich Williams. Right. Who's getting some playing time now. 16 rebounds against Houston. And the second last game of January, 21 points against Denver, the last game of January. Frank Jackson, 25 points against San Antonio last week. So you see guys now. Okafor.
Right.
In the last 9 games, he's had 8 games with double figures, and he's had 5 double-doubles. He's feeling so confident now, Jahlil Okafor. I mean, he's playing like a guy who was a first-round pick.
Yeah, well, he's the number three pick that year.
Yeah, and he's playing like it now. And I think it was a confidence thing. It was about him being in the right type of offense. He's playing well on defense. He's doing the little things now, and you can see Jahlil Okafor is having fun at what he's doing, and he's having an impact on his team. But to move on from there, everyone knew that Anthony Davis wasn't going anywhere. But Dell Demps he's not making the final decisions anymore, and the decisions have been made. Nothing's going to happen until the summer. But it is what it is. I'm a little surprised Julius Randle didn't move on it also.
I am too. We're going to get deep into Anthony Davis in a moment. By the way, the Pelicans also get a $3.1 million trade exception in the deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. So again, another asset that they can use to be able to bring in players or use to be able to, acquire draft choices. Your thoughts on the deals made today?
Again, some of them needed to be made. You helped the Wizards. You got another asset. You were able to move Mirotic. You're right. A 1 would have been better. 4 twos is certainly useful. And I know we got a lot of football fans here, maybe, and certainly way more football fans than we've got basketball fans. You start talking about draft picks, there are a lot more misses than hits in the NBA draft. You talk a first-round pick or even a second-round pick in the NFL draft, and that's a guy who's going to make your roster. That's a guy. You got a chance being a starter, being a,
you're going to
50-50 proposition
also,
of being
right?
50-50 proposition of making them, maybe they're a Pro Bowler, in the first round. That's not the case in the NBA. I mean, look, you saw Philly trade Markelle Fultz today.
Right.
Number 1 pick in the draft.
Yes.
Yeah. See you later. He's headed to Orlando now. I'm surprised they got back as much as they did, in fact. But it's so you get some picks, and you never know when you're going to hit. I mean, let's think about it. Since 2002, how many picks have the Pelicans really hit on? Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, David West.
Right.
To a lesser degree, on of the second-round picks, maybe Darius Miller, and that was on the rebound kind of thing.
Yes.
So not a lot of picks, and they haven't kept a lot of picks either. That's kind of been the MO of this organization dating back to the Shin days, and with different people making decisions, obviously. So, I mean, again, it is an asset, and it's an asset that you can in turn go spend as opposed to having a player with an expiring contract, doesn't do anything. You release somebody, whatever it is. I like the idea of at least taking that approach to try to bring these things in, which is not something you've really seen them try to do before. Now, if there was a winner today, and get into this, it's the Boston Celtics.
Yes.
No doubt.
No doubt about that.
That's the fact that they are now, in the game for AD, and look, you can say what you want now, and you've got 4 months before anything's going to happen.
Right, and it was rightly so, again, that the Pelicans did not make a deal today. We're going to get into some more specifics on that. I'm going to throw some stuff out to you guys. All right, the Lakers offered their entire young core to the Pelicans plus draft picks. The Pelicans have played hardball with the Lakers all week long for Anthony Davis. The Pelicans asked for the young core, and then they wanted 8 draft picks. They wanted 4 number 1s, 4 number 2 picks. The Lakers called that outrageous, said that they would wait for a real counter offer from the Pelicans. It never came. As Lenny was referring to, the Celtics and Danny Ainge have been in contact with the Pelicans all week long. The Pelicans were trying to work out a framework in concrete on what they could get back, what they could be assured to get back for the Celtics. Ainge did not want to put anything in concrete. That's a little bit scary because Ainge has had a reputation of fleecing teams in the past. But again, there are reports that a deal would include Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, Al Horford, who has a large contract. Maybe again that could be moved. Maybe that could be brought out of the deal, and 3 number 1 picks. The good thing is, as Lenny mentioned, going into the summertime, instead of making this deal now, You have an opportunity for every team in the NBA now to get involved in the Anthony Davis sweepstakes. So this is just not Boston and Los Angeles that will be going against each other, or New York, depending on what happens with their lottery pick. Every team now that feels that they have a chance for Anthony Davis, that they can put up the type of assets that are needed to get that type of player, again, they're going to now get involved with this. From what we understand, Dell Demps is taking the calls. Mickey Loomis is making the final decision, which is one of the reasons I think you didn't see a deal made by the trading deadline. Again, Dell Demps has every reason to try to make a deal to try to quote-unquote save his job. There's no job saving at this point. Again, when you look at an asset like Anthony Davis, they're going to make sure that ultimately they get what they need to get in terms of assets for one of the top 3 players in the league, and a guy that is supposed to be a guy that can carry a team. We know a little bit different here. Guys, let's talk about what happened and how this evolved. Davis comes out before the season, says he doesn't want to talk about being traded. He says that ultimately he'll make his decision at the end of the season. All of a sudden, Pelicans get blindsided. Friday a week ago, Rich Paul goes to Dell Demps, says, look, we're not going to sign the Supermax extension. We'd like to be traded before the trade deadline. That puts the Pelicans up against the wall. They're, again, perceived or real. It looks like there's been collusion between LeBron James, between Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, which LeBron James is represented by and obviously has an interest in. The Lakers and as well on this. They tried to bully the Pelicans into a deal. The Pelicans really stood fast. Now, some can say that this was out of spite, that they did not go with a deal with the Lakers, that the Pelicans were the ones that were leaking all of the trade offers to basically allow the Lakers to implode, which is what we saw against Indiana, almost over 40-point loss the other day with the young players just basically quitting on them. We had Anthony Davis' dad come out and said he will not play for the Celtics. Celtics are, again, one of the teams that would like to get Anthony Davis, saying that it was about loyalty because of what happened with Isaiah Thomas. Loyalty, give me a break when you start talking about this situation. But it looks like, again, the Anthony Davis team has done everything to try to poison the waters here, to try to force the Pelicans into a deal with the Lakers. The Pelicans resisted that. Your thoughts on this? This is a lot different than what we see in football, but this is kind of unprecedented what we're seeing right now. Again, with the national coverage, the national pundits chiming in, trying to get him into that major market. It's been a really tough week for those that are involved in the Pelicans organization.
And as much as we heard about, after the Saints lost, that the Rams, the game was fixed, and NFL wanted the Rams to get some exposure and stuff. If you don't think that Rich Paul and Anthony Davis and everyone involved didn't sit down and time this just before the trading deadline to think that they're going to force the Pelicans' hand at this, and they're going to panic and say, we're going to lose our best guy. Let's do the best we can right now. This is what they thought. If you don't believe that happened, you believe in the tooth fairy. I mean, because they had this all mapped out, and I think they knew this in the fall, and they were waiting for the right time, and a week before the trade deadline, this is going to do it. You look at, and they looked at the history here. I mean, with giving up the world for Omar Asik and Ajinxa and Solomon Hill, and they see some of the bad moves that Dell Demps has made, and they think, man, this guy's going to jump.
We can fleece him.
Yeah, exactly. And look, and if you want to going back to Meritage, the Bucks, people around the Bucks right now think they got a steal.
Oh, they absolutely did.
They think they hit the jackpot.
He's the missing link for him.
Right. So I'm saying is that, so they thinking, man, we're gonna fleece this guy, and using your words, and so. They were wrong, and I don't think they realize that this is, we're going to wait till the summertime because get everybody involved, because you may get a Phoenix Suns kind of situation, any team who you don't even think about right now is going to get involved because they may move some players, get more draft choices, other options, and they clear in a space to get somebody like an Anthony Davis, and they could be a heavy player. And there's other teams right now we're not even thinking about that will be heavy players.
I don't think there's any doubt. Lenny, your thoughts?
There's so many elements to this thing. It's crazy.
It really is.
That's the thing. I mean, like you touched on it with, somebody leaking this out there. Are they playing the Lakers in all of this and really trying to send them into disarray? Which maybe they miss the playoffs. Maybe they end up in the lottery. Maybe that's one of the picks that you're getting. You're going to get a better pick out of it. It's so many things going on. They don't like the way it all went down. One thing that crossed my mind to think about this: how let's just assume for a minute the flag had been thrown 2.5 weeks ago.
Yes.
Okay? And this gets out. How would this story have played last week in New Orleans?
Well,
Would it have been non-existent?
Right. No, let me say this. This was calculated on the part of Rich Paul. I think they waited for this time. They probably wouldn't have done this after the Super Bowl. This would have been this week instead of that week. Look, I think also Rich Paul wanted to show Anthony Davis, I can make you overshadow the Super Bowl. I mean, think about that. Monday, media day of the Super Bowl, they throw this out there. That is the top of the news everywhere in sports. And there's been a continuing saga. So it would have been interesting to see. I don't think they'd have done it with the Saints going to the Super Bowl because it would have been lost. I think they would have got it the week after the Saints went to the Super Bowl, and they would have came out with this. But it's a great point. And then everything that they've done up to this point, guys. I mean, you know, Anthony Davis comes out and has the press conference. It's my time. Doesn't really say anything. But then he says, we've not given a preferred destination to the Pelicans. Dad comes out that night, leaks that he's not going to the Celtics, that again, they won't sign. There's no loyalty there. A couple days later, what do we find out? There's destinations for Anthony Davis. Milwaukee, the Clippers, Lakers, or the New York Knicks. So again, I think all this has been calculated on the part of Rich Paul, LeBron James, the Lakers, and Anthony Davis's camp.
I don't disagree with that at all. Now, of course, comes the next part. The trade deadline is passed. They don't make a deal.
Right.
Now what do you do?
What do they do?
He says he can play, okay? And obviously he's healthy enough, apparently at this point. The injury that he had has healed.
You mean that hangnail healed?
Yeah, the hangnail is healed, okay. I don't know. I really think you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't at this point. You know, you're looking as an organization. I think if you choose not to play a healthy play and you're basically saying we're going to tank at this point, if you don't, you're gonna face a healthy fine from the NBA. I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be more than the $50,000 that AD got for which calculates out to about 6 minutes of playing time or whatever for saying publicly saying I want to be traded. If they choose not to play, what is going to be the fine?
Right.
And I don't know. Could they lose their first round pick? Could they get penalized their first round pick? I don't know what it is, or do they just? Is somebody in the organization just going to have to write a check?
Let me say this, Lenny.
Yeah.
With all the tampering that's going on, and let me say this, if David Stern was the commissioner right now, instead of Adam Silver, none of this would be going on. He would not allow this tampering to be going on. He would not allow LeBron James in December to make the comments that he made about wanting to play with Anthony Davis. He would not allow Anthony Davis to make his comments. He would not have allowed this collusion to go on between Clutch Sports and the Lakers to be able to try to bring Anthony Davis there. He's a much stronger commissioner than Silver is, who's more of a players commissioner. Mm-hmm. But with that said, look, it's your asset. He's been often injured. We saw what happened with Boogie Cousins. You gave up Buddy Hield for what, a half a season of DeMarcus Cousins? Yeah. So you saw what that can. That is your asset for the future now. He's already said he doesn't want to play for you at this point. So you do what you have to do. Yeah, I mentioned that when this first came out. How does the NBA react? Because again, they've already said we don't want to sit our stars in the second half of the season. When teams are either tanking or trying to rest guys going to the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I'm sure the Pelicans will draw a line in the sand here and say, you know what? If we got to play him 1 minute and go sit him on the end of the bench, then that's what we do.
Well, I think first of all that the NBA understands that this next move with Anthony Davis is going to either set this franchise up for a long time or set them back for a long time. Mm-hmm. And this is almost a legal way that they can tank and get away with it, because they can say, if we put him on the court, extended period of time, he gets hurt, there goes our leverage. We have no leverage.
Right.
And now you're taking away an opportunity, because we are going to lose him for sure. And now we can't make any kind of move and improve this franchise. And the NBA wants to see, obviously, all that teams successful. And so will they find, I don't know if they will, but there'll come a time where they may say, look, he needs to see the court, but it's down the road. And the Pelicans are buying time now, as much time as they need to rest him and tank, if you will, legally tank and gain leverage in the draft and that kind of thing. Right. And, play other players. I know the fans don't like it. They're paying to go see the best product, but I think there's a lot of fans have turned on Anthony Davis.
And the other thing is this. If you play him at home, let's say tomorrow night against Minnesota, ESPN, national TV, say, you know what, we're going to play him. Right. What's going to be your reaction to the fans?
On, what do you think the reaction is going to be?
It's going to be bad.
Right.
And do you really want that in your building? I mean, that is why it's not that they were mad at Anthony Davis for making the trade demand and he got taken out of the video and been taken off. They don't want negative fan reaction.
Right.
So maybe you play him on the road.
Right.
Maybe you just play him in road games. You don't play him at home.
Lenny,
if you play him at all,
you can't play him, Lenny.
Right? I know. I'm with you, but
you
I'm saying
can't
if
play
you
him. You can again. He's been too fragile. I mean, for 7 years, every time this kid hit the court, everybody held their collective breath. Is he getting up? Is he going to be out a week? Is he going to be out a month? Is he going to the locker room? Is he ever coming back? You can't play the guy anymore.
Yeah, how many? I bet you if you did a Google search for Anthony Davis is headed to the locker room,
Right.
how many times that would come up? It's been.
I mean, look, I have not missed a game, okay, since he came to New Orleans, and again, I've seen every single one of them, and believe me, I've held my collective breath as well every time this kid hits the floor. So you cannot play him at this point. And look, I agree with you, and I mentioned something on this program last week, and I put it out on social media. I was wrong. Okay, I got all over the Pelicans saying that again they were like a jilted lover, taking him off the intro video, and also again the Instagram True Teammates post that they put up. The True Teammates post is something they've done. It's a series they do. And look, if the Pelicans really were genuine in what they said about not wanting to have the negative fan reaction against Anthony Davis, I'll buy into it at the end of the day. But line is drawn now. You cannot play this guy again in a Pelican uniform. Again, he is the future asset for this team. Guys, let's talk about how we got here. There's a perception in the NBA now that the Pelicans are a second-class organization, that they are behind the Saints and the horse stables. Look, I would agree. I don't think they've run the Pelicans like they've run the horse stables of the Saints. I think they've run the Saints first class. I think they've run their horse stables first class. I think that again, they've kind of let the Pelicans kind of linger out there with Dell Dempson that's been in charge. The problem is now, not so much now with free agency, because you're really not going to be in the free agency mix now, but you don't want to have a situation where the perception is that New Orleans is the new NFL Buffalo, okay, where guys don't want to even be traded to the city. Mm-hmm. So again, that is also part of the damages of what has happened here with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Clutch Sports, and the Lakers. They've damaged the reputation of the franchise now, basically as a place that no one wants to play.
Well, and the thing is, and when you bring that up, people involved with the Pelicans, and Alvin Gentry has said this in defense, man, you come, I will challenge you to come see our facilities, and we have the best facilities. That's not going to attract an NBA guy.
No.
So, I mean, they have great facilities. I haven't been to every NBA franchise, but you want to win. They want rings. Are we going to win championships? Things like that. Not because you have the best facilities or even the best fans. I'm sorry. It's going to be champions. What kind of team are you putting around me? And are we going to win here and stuff like that? And, I'm going to say this real quick about the injury. I talked to a wide receiver, played in the NFL, won a Super Bowl, and when I brought up to him about a jammed index finger, he laughed and said, if I told you how many guys, receivers, who make a career catching passes, all right, you tape fingers together. Right. And I mean, I know everybody knows this, but you're playing basketball and you just work through it. And I'm talking to a guy who played in the NFL for 8 years, won a Super Bowl, and he said, you jam fingers at practice, you just keep going. So
Guys,
it's just,
we're not in the NBA, but every one of us played sports. When you sprained a finger, what'd you do? You taped it up and you went.
Yeah.
This is, and then of course, look, I get it. All posturing on their part. Look, I've never been a big fan, and I've always brought it up about the training staff for the Saints and Pelicans. Saints have changed their medical staff. Pelicans stayed with the same medical staff. Again, you see guys going out and getting second, third opinions from doctors. I have no problem with that based on what they've done in the past, especially with the injury bug that has plagued that particular franchise. But come on, a sprained finger at this point? No, all posturing on the part of Anthony Davis and his representation, because they knew this was coming down the pike. They knew what their next step was going to be. It was just a matter of, as you guys mentioned, were the Saints going to make it to the Super Bowl, or do we do it after the Saints are out of the Super Bowl and make that decision then and make it public? Final question here, guys. We're hearing there's going to be an organizational change. That again, we won't see. They no longer will there be the rumors out in the NBA that a football guy is running the basketball side with Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis has not been hands-on day-to-day with this team. They've given it to Dell Demps. Danny Ferry have been run the basketball operations. What we understand, at least what I've been told, new president, new general manager, they'll hire the new coach going forward. How big is that going to be for this organization going forward in terms of perception around the NBA?
Oh, that is major. And you're going to have to hire a guy who is well-respected around the NBA. It's not from Popovich kind of you can't get somebody because who is going to, from another team, is going to refer somebody who's going to be great and come back and beat you. Most of these coaches around the NBA are going to recommend somebody that you feel like, we got to win here. So it's going to have to be a well-respected thing. I wouldn't be surprised to see the NBA get involved in that. And it's going to have to be a strong basketball person, and whoever is the coach, I think Alvin Gentry will be talked to. I kind of, in a way, I feel sorry for Alvin Gentry.
Right. So do I.
Because he was given a bad hand he was dealt, and he's had a coach, and just the comments he's made recently, I don't know, we don't know that decision has been made. I mean, he's got to feel bad as a basketball person to be telling the media the things he's telling everybody. Like, I don't know, that decision has been made yet. And he's the coach, and he knows the answer. And again, he's got to coach these guys, and he's got to be sick about it. And he's kept his composure.
Yep.
No doubt. Obviously something's coming. We don't know to what extent, to what structure. Are they going to split things further up the line, if you will? Don't know. And what the end structure is going to be. But I will say this, the right hire can certainly be a game changer for this organization, because you can maybe then get some guys to come here if you've got the right people who can make those pitches and be somebody either on the GM or the coach level that people want to come in and play for. They've got confidence in an organization that's going to deliver the right things. Obviously, look, facilities are there. You heard Alvin Gentry talk about how the facilities are first class. Right. It's not a second class organization. His rant the other day about that.
But facilities are one thing.
Exactly, it's everything else. Right. But look, they've had to overpay already.
Yes.
For guys. That's why you have the Solomon Hill contract. That's why you had the Equan Moore contract. The reason you got those guys is because you had to go seriously outbid everybody else and go, take some chances to try to get guys like that. So you've got to be able to get. This is going to be an organization for a while. You're going to have to get guys through the trades and be able to keep them, like a Drew Holiday.
Right.
Like until you made the move, like a Nico Mirotic. Those types of moves, that's going to be the route you're going to have to go to get those types of guys. And then you got to hit on guys in the draft.
You've got to build through the draft this time around.
No doubt.
Okay, you got to cultivate your own talent. You got to have somebody that understands how to spot that talent. They got a guy on the NFL side named Jeff Ireland that knows how to do that. They need a Jeff Ireland type on the basketball side that can do that as well, because they don't have that once-in-a-generation player right now. Hopefully they can get a guy with all-star aspirations like a Jason Tatum to be their centerpiece if that happens one way or the other. But now they're going to have to build through the draft. Lenny Vangilder, Rene Nadeau of CrescentCitySports.com. We come back. We're really going to jump into something they're all involved in, and that is college recruiting. We'll talk about National Signing Day. We'll go through LSU and Tulane signees. We'll talk about some other schools around the state. And then if we have time, we'll touch on the Saints as well. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Don't move.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Tonight, Rene Nadeau and Lenny Vangilder of CrescentCitySports.com. We talk about National Signing Day, which is kind of, not as big, and there's no Bayou Bash anymore. And again, everybody's not lining up like they used to because of the early signing period. And I'll ask you guys first, Do you see a situation where we have an early signing period only and National Signing Day goes away, where they make National Signing Day early? Or do you think there'll still be the split between the 2 days going forward?
I think it's going to be a split. I think it's going to be a split. And I got to admit, I was wrong. I didn't think the December signing day would be as successful as it is. I was wrong. So
coaches like the high school coaches like it in the second.
Absolutely.
Day, right?
And you know, one thing too, and we've talked about this, is you're always going to have guys, players are going to wait, because if you make a decision to sign with the school in December, and there's a coaching change at the end of the season,
right,
you're stuck. So a lot of these kids would rather wait till February and find out if the assistant that was recruiting them is taking a job elsewhere,
right,
because it's long after the football season. That's a safety. It's kind of a safety net there.
Yes, it does.
So I don't think they'll ever change that. Recruiting it's like Christmas Day. You never have a school had a bad recruiting day.
Right.
It's like the draft. So it's always a celebration, and so much goes into it. And Lenny and I were around the last few years, and we went so many places yesterday, and it's a road for these young men that's been traveled, and so many people, support staff, the family, the friends, the teammates, and everything, that played a major part in these kids, and they're making a major decision in their life.
Yes.
And I mean, when you see the families and friends surround these young men and take pictures and stuff, it's a celebration of something that took a long, long time. A lot of work and effort and sweat and tears went into that.
Right. We're lucky to have these two guys. Not only do they cover high school sports like nobody else, they watch these kids, they talk to these kids, they're involved in the recruiting end. So again, these are the two guys you want to have on a show like this tonight. Lenny, do you think they'll ever go back to one National Signing Day, or they'll continue to have the split?
I'm a big believer that the genie never goes back in the bottle.
Okay.
So it's staying that way. Now, how it gets changed down the line, I can't say. And it's close to Christmas. There really is no good time to have the early period. Like Rene was referring to, these guys want to wait. In reality, a lot of these commitments are done by the summertime. You could sign them right then. And it would, there's some coaches that like the idea of, as soon as you commit, sign, let's be done with all the charades, you just sign them.
Yeah.
And because the other thing too with the December signing is you've got more and more kids enrolling in January to go through spring practice. Look what Derek Stingley did this year.
Yes.
Not only signed in December, he had officially graduated from high school. He was able to go through pre-bowl practices with LSU. Now he couldn't play,
right,
but he even got in more practices and was arguably the best cornerback on the field, especially with Greedy Williams being, and with the injuries, and with Greedy Williams being being already done and getting ready for the draft. But there is no good time. I'll give you an example. Okay, so right now the early period is happening in that 3-day window, late, right, like the week before Christmas at this point. I'm not sure whether they call it the third week of December, whatever it is that it's being labeled. But first of all, it's right before Christmas. Secondly, you take the kids from Louisiana high schools. If you played in a state championship, you just finished playing a state championship game barely a week before. So you've been through 15 weeks of a football season, and now all of a sudden, you've got it. If you haven't decided, you're trying to hurry up and make a decision in a very short amount of time, because maybe you are going to graduate in December and you can enroll somewhere in January.
Yes.
You take a case like Texas, where so many kids, LSU and Tulane both going and getting a lot of kids from Texas. You're playing in a state championship at Texas. It's that week. Their season's even longer. They play their state championship games the week of signing, that early signing period. So imagine you're trying to make that decision and finalize that. And oh, by the way, you're about to play the biggest game of your life.
Yes.
So there's, like I say, there's not a perfect calendar in terms of when you can do this. Coaches, you're trying to deal with all of this, wrap things up, sign, and you're in the middle of bowl preparation. You're Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech coaches are in Hawaii. They were playing in the Hawaii Bowl. They were up at 2 a.m. Hawaii time to sign kids, for that opportunity. Tulane, instead of having and for that matter, UL Lafayette, instead of having a big recruiting weekend the weekend before that early signing period, they were both playing in a bowl game in Orlando.
Right.
So you missed that opportunity to do it. Now look, that's a nice give back because of the fact you were in a bowl game.
Yes.
But the point is, there is no perfect time to be able to do that. Like Rene said, you don't know what's going to happen with those coaches. That late period is a safety net. Most of them are going to get it done. I think some of them are going to wait until February regardless. Yeah, we talked about it before the show. We were in a meet yesterday for Devontae Lee and Ish Sopsher's announcement. they knew in August they were going all the way to February with this thing. They were not going to sign early. They were going to take it all the way out till February. And I'm not totally sure they didn't effectively have their minds made up a long time ago where they were going. I mean, I think most people you talk to would tell you LSU was a favorite for Lee and Alabama was a favorite for Sopsher, and that's the way it ended up.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about LSU. On my radio show yesterday, I mean, you would have thought that LSU had a horrible class. I mean, I was blown away. I really was. The rankings, LSU is a top 5 class in the 24/7 composite rankings. Rival has them 3. ESPN has them 7th. Your thoughts on the class?
Good news and bad news. The good news is LSU's number 3, and one. The bad news is Alabama and Georgia ahead of them.
Yeah.
But the thing is that people have a tendency to go to the negative and think, man, what about the guy we lost or people we lost and stuff? And the thing is, there's a lot of people that LSU reeled in. They got some players. Derek Stingley is in that. Patrick Peterson and Mo Claiborne. He can start right away.
The number 1 player in the nation, right?
Yeah,
in the nation.
Yeah, and he's almost NFL ready. Apu Ika, he's 380 right now, but when he gets about 350 and a 345, 350, he is a man-child, and he can man that nose tackle position in the SEC, and he'd be ready to go. He'll allow Fielko and Rashard Lawrence to go back to natural tackle. You got Glenn Logan, a swing guy.
Yes.
Marcel Brooks is a guy. If you don't know much about him, he's a monster. When I say monster, he'll play outside linebacker, strong safety, play in the box, can cover. They love him. He's about 6'3", 195. He's a guy that I think is going to see the field early next year. Devontae Lee, he made it clear, and we heard him yesterday. I don't know about defense, but he wants to play offense. And they're going to have to convince him, Devontae Lee, to go play outside linebacker, strong safety. He wants to play. He's coming here. I asked him about teaming up with Trey Palmer from Kentwood, and he said, oh, yeah, we're going to – they liken them style because I've heard in the past Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry.
Right.
So I think they both think they can come in and do that. But LSU has signed a great class. Starks out of Everett, Dante Starks, is a guy to watch for him. He's going to be – and he's coming in at middle linebacker. He won't start, but he'll get reps, and he's good enough to see the field. So they signed some really, really good players. John Emery, he's coming in at a need position as well.
Yes.
And he's one of the best in the country.
Guys, 8 of the top 10 players in Louisiana, Ed Ogeron signed. 8 of the top 10 players in Louisiana, but yet some are out there saying, oh, this wasn't that good of a class. As you mentioned, A&M, Alabama, Georgia, all in that top 5, top 6, top 7. That's the bad news. But, I mean, come on, this is a pretty darn good class.
It is. I'll liken it to LSU's 2011 football season. It was a great year. You beat all of these teams, but you lost the last game.
Yeah.
You got every kid you wanted in Louisiana, but the last kid to announce went to Alabama. And that's, if you're going to analogize, maybe that's the best way I could do it. Obviously, that was important. And I think people are just obviously annoyed at the fact that Nick Saban, the evil empire, keeps coming in here and plucking guys out of Louisiana, and they're going up there and they're making differences. They're not just guys who were sitting at the end of the bench. They're big-time recruits who are going in there and they're making plays. Whether it's Cam Robinson or it's Dylan Moses who came by way of IMG or Smith, the wide receiver. You could go down the line.
You're making us all cry right now.
Shaheem Carter. We can rattle them all off, and now you add Sopsher to that list.
Yes.
Sure, they're going to come in here and get guys. You know what? Because they've got a base here. I mean, it's obviously, The thing you think about now is those guys like the idea of having rings on their fingers. The guys who are signing now were about 4 or 5 years old when Nick Saban left LSU to go to the Dolphins.
True.
So they don't remember that.
That's right.
Of course, their family does and such. But look, it's you still had you're not going to get everybody you take a shot at.
Guys, I want to talk about Sopsher in a moment, but let's talk about the direction they went. They went with a lot of skill position players this time around. You look at what happened in terms of the returning seniors on the offensive defensive line. Last year, you had a lot of offensive linemen that played because of injury. You got guys that you thought might have went to the NFL because it's a deep NFL draft in terms of defensive linemen. Some of those guys like Rashard Lawrence, they came back. You got players that didn't play a lot that are going to get a lot of playing time this year. Next year is supposed to be a bonanza in this state for defensive linemen. So again, I get it. They might have gotten beaten in the trenches this time around. And look, Ed Orgeron has said it. I think we all agree. You're going to beat Alabama, you got to be better in the trenches. They weren't able to really do it this year, but they've got a little bit of a bridge to next year if they can do what they did this year in terms of, again, putting that fence around Louisiana and getting the best. Your thoughts? You see these guys in high school. You know these guys on the offensive defensive lines at LSU.
And you hit it on the head. You know, Eric, I'm going to tell you, LSU has a lot of guys coming back. Justin Thomas, Neil Farrell, guys who played some last year. Fajoko's coming back. Rashard Lawrence, Glenn Logan's coming back. You know, and I'm not saying this if Sofser were to come to LSU, he was not going to start. The thing is, Apu is a better nose tackle, and that's what Sofser is. He is a nose tackle. He's 6'3", 335, and he's a nose tackle right now. And I think right now, had he come to LSU, if he puts it together and loses some weight, Tyler Shelvin would have been ahead of him. So if you want to use that as a comparison, if Sofser would have signed with LSU, they'd have got him on the field, but he'd have been second or third team for sure. There's a lot more talent on this team. We were talking off the air. The offensive line will be a strength for LSU next year. I've heard two people tell me who would know that there's a good chance Ed Ingram, who started at right guard as a true freshman, is coming back next year. There's a very good chance he'll come back. Man, if that happens, you got Cushenberry, you got Damian Lewis at left guard, who's an SEC kind of guy. Sadiq Charles is a serviceable left tackle. He's good. Deculus came on at the end, and you got some depth there. Right. Cameron Wire is a guy. Dare Rosenthal is a guy that moved from defense to offense, 6'7", 335. He can play left tackle, Dare Rosenthal. He's going to get a lot of reps in the spring practice, and with hope that he might be the left tackle for the next 3 or 4 years. So, I mean, things are not, it's not dire straits for LSU. I mean, they had a great class, again, 3 to 5. They're great at skill position. There's a glut at wide receiver. And Joe Burrow, I mean, at this time last year, who would have thought that they'd be as good as they are?
And who knows what they're going to do offensively, especially with this, with this new hire.
Like Joe Brady.
A lot more RPO perhaps. So, some of those, you may see some of those backs and receivers just, run through there, and a lot of them get the ability to get into the mix and doing some things.
Yeah. You guys both have seen Sofster play. I've had some tell me they think he's going to be a star. I've had some tell me that, again, he is a AA wonder. He's a bigger guy that played against inferior and smaller guys, and he dominated. Rene, your thoughts?
I said this on the show. He can be somewhere between Al Woods and Glenn Dorsey. Al Woods is still playing in the NFL, but Al Woods was a guy out of Elon that y'all may remember, which is that single A, double A, Lenny? Elon. It's got to be
somewhere,
single
small,
or double A.
Right.
Okay. He goes to LSU. He finished his career at LSU with like 48 tackles. Okay. And I'm telling you, Sofser played against AA competition, and I don't know if they didn't light a fire under Al Woods or whatever the reason he wasn't successful, or he was playing in a line that was talented. But I really like him. There's a chance that Sofser could be very close to Al Woods. I hope he's better. I hope for his sake the guy excels and goes it on to the NFL. But again, between Al Woods and Glenn Dorsey, and that's a reality.
Your thoughts?
Well, I saw him play well in the state championship game, and I saw him get handled in their season opening game, which was their one loss of the year. And
who do they play against?
Country Day.
Country Day, right?
A team with 27 players, much smaller, and they really adjusted to account for him. And they were well coached, and they are well coached, and did a great job to scheme against him. And a warm human opening day, I think he got a little frustrated, to be honest. But to their credit, after that point, they ran the table, and obviously he was a big part of that. So, I defer to Rene on the whole
comparison.
Not just the comparisons, but the real expertise in terms of level of play. But sure, we'll see. Obviously, you look at the specimen there, and and what he's accomplished, and he deserved the level and the grade he was getting. Although I will say, this is a guy who was the #1 rated defensive tackle in the country before the season started. He was more like number 5 when we got to signing day.
Let's head to the phone lines, and we're going to talk about Tulane's recruiting class. Toby is in Kenner. Toby, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Toby.
Yeah, Eric, would you be comfortable if Danny Ferry becomes president and letting him pick our GM? And thank you.
Thanks. No, Toby, I think they need to pressure wash the organization. I think anybody that's been involved in the last 7 years of Anthony Davis, the last 9 years since Dell Demps has been here, the 7 years that the organization has been run and owned by the Bensons, I think they need to pressure wash everything. They need to start fresh. They need to prove to the fan base that they're going in a different direction. They need to prove to the NBA that this is a different organization as well. So, Danny Ferry's got a great reputation, but I didn't see Danny Ferry making any big-time moves for this team in cahoots with Dell Demps. So I would say pressure wash the entire organization. All right, let's talk about Tulane's class, guys. First of all, only 4 Louisiana players. And you would think by now that Willie Fritz would have made more inroads into Louisiana. I spoke to Gary Smith today, who covers the Greenway for the Advocate, and his deal was, look, a lot of kids just can't get into Tulane, and they were going to be picky. They were not going to just take a kid from Louisiana just to take a kid for the sake of being a Louisiana kid. They would rather look regionally or nationally for players, and that's basically what they did.
And you know what? Willie Fritz has hit the bonanza on grad transfers. Justin McMillan.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
They're going to have their starting center is a kid, Christian Montano, who played at Brown, 6'4", 315. He's going to they insert him at center and move Corey Dublin to guard again. Jalen McCleskey, JJ's son, had 167 catches at Oklahoma State. He's going to be a major factor for Tulane next year. They had a good recruiting class. Tyler Shelvin from Zachary, Tonquez Ball from Tennessee, Jaquan Jackson from Hahnville is a kid they really like a lot. Ty Spears, Hank Tierney's kid at Ponchatoula, is a guy. He's a guy in space, a wide receiver, a running back, a guy in the slot. They did a real good job recruiting, and he's going where he's got connections. Willie has connections all over the country.
Yes.
Now, and we both love C.J. Curtis Johnson a lot. Mm-hmm. I think C.J. maybe went overboard a little bit trying to get too many local guys and have people come out and watch and stuff. Willie's going to try to get the guys that he thinks are going to fit this team and commit. I mean, he recruited guys locally, but he didn't get all anybody he wanted. But he is beating some really good schools. He's beating some SEC schools with some of the talent he has, and he's beating the schools he competes with rather than beating the lower level schools. And you get Tulane is the best offer you had.
Yes.
Well, he's beating some really good schools for the talent he's got.
I think one of the challenges that Tulane has in the state of Louisiana is there's a little bit too much local knowledge out there. Tulane's got a better reputation getting away from this area than it does locally.
That's a great point.
And you don't hear about Tulane constantly if you're in Georgia or Alabama or Texas or things like that when they can go in. And look, I think how they've kind of presented things. The fact that you're making a 40-year decision with Tulane, which I think is a great concept, really focusing, on the education, the quality of it, the cost of it, and what all goes into that. And I mean, you look at the makeup of their student body, okay? I mean, LSU's so much Louisiana. You look at Tulane. Go drive through Tulane's campus. How many Louisiana license plates you're going to see? Not a lot. Right. So it's recruiting regionally is probably a better fit for them. And look, they got. Out of 2021 kids, 16 were 3-star kids? That's solid.
That is.
They're getting good kids, and I think they're doing a good job of coaching kids up. And until we saw 1 or 2 moves this year, we've seen continuity in the coaching staff. And don't undervalue that as you're trying to evaluate football teams. When you keep those coaching staffs together, that really can be huge in terms of developing talent and making them better than what it was when they got there.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now, they are making a change at offensive coordinator. Will Hall comes in, going to open up the offense a little bit more. Your thoughts there?
That's going to be interesting. Justin McMillan is a dual-threat guy. You saw that. Jonathan Banks was a dual-threat guy, but Justin McMillan they bought into him, and he just clicked with the guys. He just picked that whole team up, and he was a big reason that Tulane wound up in a bowl game, and he's got another year to play. I think Justin McMillan didn't get a chance at LSU, but he can be really special, and I don't know if he can play at the next level, but he can be a really good college quarterback.
Right. Guys not ranked as high as they were last year, but again, still a pretty good class. Your thoughts on Will Hall?
Be interesting to see exactly what he does. And I mean, I think, obviously he's a little more spread type. than what they have done previously with Ruse, but it's going to be, I think he's going to play to what he's got there and what Justin McMillan has. They've got a transfer quarterback from Southern Miss who becomes eligible this year as well. So I think they've got the ability to do a lot of different things offensively. There wasn't a quarterback in this class, which, man, I don't know if you consider that a concern or what. Maybe they're happy where they are there. Maybe they'll try to pick up another transfer down the way. I mean, if anything has proven to be a spot that you can go get somebody out of the transfer portal as we know it now.
Yes.
Quarterback is a position you could, that's a position where you're not playing, boom, I'm out the door, I'm looking for somewhere else.
Guys, you both are around high school coaches all year round. Is Willie Fritz making inroads with high school coaches around this state?
Yeah, he is. And he's got the respect of the high school coaches, and and they like what they see. I mean, coaches like what they see. They know if they send a player to his program, he's going to be well coached, he's going to have success, he's going to get a good education. So it's not that the local coaches are not sending their kids there.
Yes.
It's the kids' decision sometimes, and they have offers they feel like want to go. Some kids want to leave the area for whatever reason it may be. But I think Willie Fritz has the total respect of the high school coaches in this area.
Lenny?
I would agree. And I mean, look, he's got guys who have Louisiana backgrounds on his staff. Will Hall has, he's a Mississippi guy,
right.
but he spent some time at UL Lafayette. Some guys who have been at Northwestern. Obviously, adding JJ to the staff last year, has got great New Orleans roots and has worked, with a number of kids through, private training and such, and and done some things there, and been able to make some inroads and help certainly within the city. Yeah, I think the thing that Tulane needs to do is to sustain success. We were talking before we went on the air. No coach in Tulane history has ever been to 2 bowl games.
It's amazing.
So if he could take Tulane to a bowl game again next year, the schedule came out Thursday. It's not going to be easy. Okay, they've got we knew what it was. Now at least we've got an order on what it is, and you got Houston on a Thursday night again. You got UCF at home late in the year. You got to go to Auburn. They're going to be tested. There's no question about that. But if they can put it together to at least look at how they finished this year. We wrote them off at 2-5.
Yes, no
Said,
doubt.
okay, win till next year, right? Might be looking at a new coach depending on how they finish, right? Finish strong, 6-6, win the bowl game. Now you're 7-6. If they can go 7-8 wins next year, contend again, they were right in the hunt for, actually won a piece of a 4-way tie or whatever it was for a division title this year.
Which is huge, right?
Exactly. You get in the hunt for that and perhaps get in that conference championship game. And win again. Now all of a sudden you're going to start. Kids have short memories. They're now going to see that, hey, Tulane's got something going there, winning a couple of years in a row. That's got a chance to reverse a lot of what's happened over the years.
And they're in a pretty good conference too.
Oh yeah, and like you said, who would have thought 2-5?
Right.
And again, LSU too. Last year, everybody was saying if LSU wins 6-6, goes 6-6, they'll be lucky. So man, don't worry about the schedule.
Yeah.
And I think both LSU and Tulane are looking forward to a really, really big things in 2019.
Well, I'm looking forward to having you two guys back on the program. I always love when you guys
Always
come
a
on.
pleasure,
Just a
E.
plethora of knowledge. And of course, CrestCitySports.com. You got to be able to make that on. Put that on your favorites. I look at it every morning when I get started. You should as well. Lenny Vangilder, Rene, Nadeau, CrestCitySports.com. Thanks for being with us tonight on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE-TV at 10 p.m. You can also catch us statewide, Pelican Sports Television, 9 p.m. every Friday night, and always at ericasher.com. Catch me on the radio, Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2, and the iHeart Radio app. That's noon to 2 weekdays. Of course, you can listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. All the podcasts are there to be able to peruse at your leisure. I also want to thank our guest tonight, again, Rene Nadeau, and also Lenny Vangilder. Also the WLE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.